Hello and welcome back to another We Ourselves video. And today I want to talk about a Vanity Fair article which talks about the Hollywood's DEI programs and how they have begun to DIE. About a week or so ago, I posted a video talking about the problems that Anthony Mackie's Captain America Brave New World was going to face when that movie is released just a few weeks after the re-election and inauguration of Donald J. Trump. And in that video, I said that they had run out of time. Given all the other production problems, they were now coming out in an atmosphere in this country which was decidedly anti-DEI. And I even mentioned how many corporations have already dialed back or eliminated those programs in anticipation of the new political environment. And since I did that video, you had news organizations come out and kill articles or edit articles that might have been unfavorable to the incoming administration. You had longtime progressive news channels where the people on there have turned and are now playing nice with the incoming administration, and people are complaining about it and they are losing their fan bases. But that's where I wanted to begin because a friend of mine gave me this Vanity Fair article which proved the points that I was saying in my video, namely that Hollywood is going to do what the news industry is doing and what corporate America is going to do. It is rolling back their DEI programs or getting rid of them altogether. And this article in Vanity Fair was written by Joy Press, and I just want to read some of the quotes and a little bit of the article because it substantiates what I was saying, that we're going into a different political environment where companies are changing their approach so that they don't get a target on their back. And Disney and Lucasfilm and Marvel and all the rest of them, and yes, James Gunn's DC Studios, they all have to be aware of it because their parent companies are aware of the new climate in which we're going in. So let's get a little bit into this article. And again, it's written by Joy Press for Vanity Fair, and it's called Hollywood's DEI Programs Have Begun to DIE. And then she asked a question, how hard did the industry really try? Okay, so I just want to read a little bit of it and a little bit of the quotes. The TV creator, Justin Simien, doesn't waste any words. It's still quite dangerous and difficult to be black in Hollywood. We're talking about how the television world vowed to change after the murder of George Floyd in 2020 and the protests that followed. Entertainment conglomerates promised to slay systematic racism and knit diversity, equity, and inclusion into the fabric of the industry. We are now closing in on the 5th anniversary of those vows. So how's that going? And she continues with the Justin Simien quote, "It not only didn't change, but in some ways it's kind of got worse," says Simien, who created Dear White People, a movie and a series that I watched, and directed Haunted Mansion. I also went to see that. And the recent doc series Hollywood Black, also seeing that. Because of my experience as a black person trying to get Dear White People made, I knew not to expect much, but it's still pretty disheartening when even the facade totally falls away. And this is a very interesting point he's going to make. My experiences was having projects that were very enthusiastically announced, but never got to the green light, or somebody white would be brought on to do the rewrite. And I want to pause here because that is Mahershala Ali's Blade. You saw the enthusiasm of the audience and the people there and the people on stage, his fellow actors and the producer. You had Kevin Feige talk about how excited he was, but here we are almost 6 years later and that project has never gotten the green light. Yes, there's this rumor that it's finally a priority. How can something be a priority when you've dragged your feet for almost 6 years? Mahershala Ali's project experienced the same thing that Simien is talking about here. Simien sometimes cringes now when a studio wants to put out a release about a show of his in development. I just think, oh, you need to announce a black project right now. They are seen as a more diverse place to work, but then behind the scenes, it doesn't feel like the project's being taken seriously. It's almost as if I'm a figurehead. Once again, I love this article because it's really putting a light on what Hollywood has been doing and is probably going to accelerate now because they have the cover and the excuse of being less antagonistic towards an incoming administration. There's a lot of people that are using the fact that you having a change in the politics in Washington, they're using that as an excuse to do what they wanted to do anyway. And I love this quote: "When times are tough, the idea of acting on high-minded beliefs become harder." Okay, and I want to read this part. I think this is good. Hollywood has struggled mightily in the post-streaming bubble, post-strike era, with corporate consolidation and budget cuts crippling television production. The industry's short attention span doesn't help either. Across the board, everyone has been suffering, says Tim B. Banks, a TV writer and filmmaker. But there's that old adage: when white America has a cold, black America has the flu. Alarm bells clanged for people of color in Hollywood when a spat of high-profile DEI executives either stepped down or were caught up in budget cuts in 2023. Those who were laid off and those who left of their own volition agree that most DEI setups are ineffectual. Says Horn, quote, "The systems that are in place don't support success." And this part right here really gets to what I said in my video on Brave New World being out of time and coming out at a bad time. In his first term, Donald Trump banned racial sensitivity training for federal contractors, and he held last year's Supreme Court ruling that declared affirmative action in higher education unconstitutional, potentially leaving workplace initiatives vulnerable to lawsuits. America First Legal Foundation, a conservative group founded by Stephen Miller, who has been named Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy in the new administration, has brought federal civil rights complaints accusing, quote-unquote, woke corporations like Nike, Hershey's, and United Airlines of discriminating against white men. And the company also filed a federal civil rights complaint against Disney for its inclusion standards. And Disney is the owner of Marvel. And they have to be thinking about the incoming administration and the ramping up of anti-DEI programs. And when you look at a movie like Brave New World, in which you have Sam Wilson, a clearly identified Black American male who has replaced Chris Evans, it is the poster child of what these people would call a DEI move. Marvel and Disney would have to consider what they have coming out in the future. And what are they doing? Whether you believe it's timed or whether you believe it's coincidence, Marvel is getting the band back together for the MCU. And that means getting back all the original Avengers, which is an all-white team. You already have Robert Downey Jr. coming back. You have Hugh Jackman, who came back as Wolverine. You have Deadpool over there now. You have Chris Evans coming back. There's talk of Scarlett Johansson maybe coming back. Chris Hemsworth said he was going to retire, but he hasn't gone anywhere. His character is still alive and well in the MCU. And Mark Ruffalo hasn't gone anywhere. So you are going to put forth this white team of people at a time when it's convenient for Disney to hide from any, like they said, lawsuits against their inclusion programs. This is what is going on with the entertainment industry, with Hollywood. From recent years, estimate that the entertainment industry forfeits $30 billion annually thanks to Hollywood's inability or unwillingness to serve Black, Latinx, and Asian American Pacific Islander audiences. This idea has not taken hold that inclusive storytelling could help reinvent the business. That's mind-boggling, that the business itself is not shifting to meet what the data is telling us. And the Vanity article goes on to mention how Issa Rae is talking about her moves that she's making by going independent. They mention Tyler Perry's studio is an example of how you can go independent, although is he really independent? He gets a lot of work from the studios, which is why he's a billionaire now. It's not off the Medea movies because they didn't earn $1 billion collectively. It's off people in the industry using his studio for their production. He has all the major people coming through his campus and using his facilities. But still, it's still a success story depending on how you look at it. Again, this is in Vanity Fair. I advise everybody to go and read it and see what's happening in Hollywood. It isn't just happening to the corporations, the business corporations. It isn't just happening to news organizations. It's happening across the board because we are entering into a new political phase and attitude. But anyway, that's my thoughts on the matter. Check the story out. As always, like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you in the next video.